gain inspiration to make a positive change in the nation. We're inviting you to partake in conversation to raise your vibration. It's the day that we will all celebrate all of our peace that make this thing elevate. Watch the negative fade away, cause it's the day with Trae.
Grand Rising, everyone. Welcome to the Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. I want to welcome you to a terrific Tuesday. It's always exciting when I have my brother, Jay Martin Jr. in the building, y'all. We're going to be talking about his upcoming shows, multiple, his 7th season of his podcast. And, you know, he and I, we were both at Malcolm X opening night, so I've got to dive in with him there as well. But of course, it is the top of the show, so it's a great time to tag and share the stream. That's right, participate with us. Go ahead and share the stream, y'all, with folks who you feel could benefit from a daily dose of dopeness right here on the Day with Trae. If you can't watch our TV show, don't trip. We got you covered because you can listen to us anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Just search Converge Media Network and the Day with Trae. You'll find me on whichever platform is your favorite. So go ahead and search for us. Huge shout out to those who are listening. We are always thinking of you here on the Day with Trae. Appreciate all of the listeners out there on the podcast and the podcast team for making that happen. Thanks so much to all of you and for sharing the podcast as well as our audience on the podcast side grows as well. So it's exciting for me here. Before I get into it with Jay later on in the show, I'm excited because, you know, as a mother, I'm getting to really see my sons develop and grow into their own. And I talk about motherhood often here on the Day with Trae because it's a major part of my life. It is the foundation for what I'm doing as an adult. No matter what other roles I'm wearing, that motherhood role is always so prominent in my life. And I want to send a huge shout out to my sons. You know, one of my sons, my youngest son, he is new in a school, and this is his first time in public school because he's been in a very small learning environment. Shout out to Teaching with Love and Care, TLC out there, the Magic School Bus, as some of you may know it. But honestly, you know, he's used to that smaller environment. And it was so amazing to have him immersed in that all the way from kindergarten to 4th grade. And so he just recently, after winter break, joined a public school, and he's dealing with all of the things that come with it, right? He is such a great kid because he's like, man, I'm going to make friends. He's excited, and he joins and he starts meeting people. And day one, he finds a young student who was on the football team with him 2 years ago. So they hit it off immediately. They already have this connection. They hit it off. But that friend was already friends with someone else. And that someone else is having a hard time sharing his friend with my son. So my son expressed to me over the last week how he really wants to try to make amends with this other boy. And he's like, Ma, you know, I told him, you know, some of the things that he says kind of rub me a different way. He's trying to like make fun of me and I'm not here for it. And I said, well, you know how we do. We move in peace. So be at peace. Let him know, hey, look, if you want to be my friend, I'll be your friend. But if you don't, then don't. And it just made me remember that as a parent, we have to deal with these things that happen in our children's lives all the time because their first example is us. So it made me reflect on my own friendships. You know, how do I deal with sharing friends, or how do I deal with different relationships when they come up? And I was able to really explain to my son from a personal perspective and how he has experienced me as his mother, be open to all types of people and still keep my very solid friend group. And it was a great connection that I got to have with him. So shout out for him and all of the young people who are navigating this thing called life. You know, takes on a lot of different forms. There's a lot of opportunities, which some may call challenges, but they're opportunities to really drive home your sense of self and your sense of peace, which really is your nature. So how you approach these different opportunities in your lives is really on you. And that's what I was able to encourage my son with. You know, don't react emotionally, but respond appropriately. when we control our responses, we make for better interactions with folks. So I wanted to bring that here to you all today because maybe some of you needed to be reminded of that. Or for some of you young people, be encouraged as you navigate life, making new friends, trying to figure out where your emotions are coming from and how to deal with them. This is something that many adults are still trying to figure out. So kudos to all of you out there who are navigating it all. Well, before I tell you all about that, I had to make sure I drop some gems before we get Trae March Jr., who's coming up next. He's going to be dropping some gems. Of course, we get to catch up with him and all the great work he's doing. Y'all don't want to miss this. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Seattle Opera presents X, the life and times of Malcolm X. The story of one of the most misunderstood figures in U.S. history comes to McCaw Hall for an exceptional night at the opera. Pulitzer Prize-winning composer Anthony Davis produces an American classic with influences from classical music, jazz, pop, blues, and more. Don't miss X, the life and times of Malcolm X, February 24th through March 9th at McCaw Hall. Details at seattleopera.org.
Africatown Plaza is our latest affordable housing development project. It's 126 units of affordable housing over community commercial space.
It's the first time in my career, and I've been doing this for 10 years, that I was able to design for people who look like me.
Africatown Plaza is a beacon of hope.
Africatown Plaza is a love letter to the community.
My mind a lot, don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got you in my pocket spot. Yeah, that's babe, need you every day. You seem like the barging down, got my heart no barging in. From the to the floor to the couch, might wake the neighbors up, break you in and break you out. In the end, we gon' make the child. Then we gon' hit the shower. Part 2, we don't need no pause. Miss me, we gon' get tipsy, don't need a power shot.
Copy my steel, face the fact that copy my steel, face the fact.
Welcome back, y'all, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. Joining me now is Trae March Jr., my brother. What's up?
Good to see you, Trae. It's
so
always good to be here.
It's so good to see you.
My
Now,
goodness.
I know you can relate to some of that motherhood talk I was sharing.
I was thinking about my kids. I have 3 kids. And, you know, my daughter, she is the life of the party. And it's interesting because, you know, she's learning, like, what is okay. And she has a really big personality, and she loves to, like, people will say, well, she wants to take over. I said, she's a leader. She is a natural leader. And so sometimes some of her friends, they'll butt heads. And I tell her all the time, I said, honey, remember, you stay great, but at the same time, there are other people that have greatness on the inside of them too. So let's be great together.
Yeah, right.
But then also the struggle of, you know, my daughter is black and white. And so, like, trying to fit in, where do I fit in, you know? So for her, I've been telling her, love both, embrace all of you. You don't have to choose. You get to have it all. So, you know, accept your curly ringlets, and you don't have to straighten your hair every day because you see your friends that are Caucasian with straight hair every day. Embrace all of you, you know, and if anybody's bullying you, talk to somebody about it. Number one, come to me because I'm gonna deal with it.
That's right.
You know, but also talk to authority. Don't just accept it and carry that. We're not meant to carry that and be treated any old kind of way because maybe they don't accept who we are. So we all have greatness, and let's work with it together. So I felt what you were saying, you know.
I love that. You know, that's one of those things. I think a lot of parents, we nod when we hear other parents talking on parenthood because, again, no matter how many books you read, there's still
Mm-mm.
no guide. There's
No,
still no guide
there's no
to it.
guide.
And your children are unique in their own right. When you have multiple children, you're dealing with these different personalities. And as they're
Yes.
growing into themselves,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, how do I change my approach? Because now my 18-year-old is very different than how I deal with my 10-year-old, right?
Right.
So absolutely. Well, Jay, you are always doing some phenomenal things. And first up, I got to say, you looked phenomenal
Oh,
at Malcolm X. It was
thank
so
you.
great to see you out.
Thank
I know
you.
you've been dealing with some things, so it's
Yeah.
great to have you
Yes.
in the community and to see you out.
Yeah.
Just tell us a little bit about how that show,
Oh,
imprinted itself on you.
it's beautiful to see. Number one, we were in the room. You know what I'm saying? I go to the opera, you go to the opera, and you look for us. And it's not many of us that show up. I felt like to see all of us in the room, when I say us Black people,
Yeah.
I'm saying Black, we pulled up, and it was beautiful to see us talking and laughing and coming together, and the anticipation, and for me, what I heard was, this is like 40 years in the making. And so I really appreciated the vocal ability and the blending of things and the story, how it was told. There's many different ways we could, people have expectations,
Yeah.
But for me, I'm new to the opera. And so I know the Malcolm X story, but I've never seen it told this way from an opera standpoint. So I thought they did a phenomenal job. I would like to see an off-Broadway show with it too, but they did a great job, and I would encourage people to go. It was beautiful to me. It was
Well, I had to
beautiful.
ask you. I know there's been a lot of talk in community because you're right. I think that was the blackest I've ever seen McCall Hall. Honestly, it was, and not only did we show up, we showed out. Because
We showed out.
We got to come with all the bells and
The
whistles, right?
outfits,
You already
the
know.
culture,
Yeah.
People accepting who they are. I kept hearing, I changed my name. I kept hearing that in the background. I didn't want to accept what was just given from like over 400 years ago. And we know where it started, slavery.
Yeah.
And so I'm free, so I want my name. And I kept hearing that. And I don't know, that just resonated with me, because if I'm coming from a different perspective, a lot of us go through things and we accept names that are just given to us, and so I think there's something to be said about taking back what belongs to you and really walking in the name that you give yourself. So I don't know. It was just, I was hearing so much, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
That's such a part of the Malcolm X story too. And I love that you said that. And again, the difficulty of the music, I think, was different for me too. I hadn't experienced those jazz tones in opera before. So you're right. As someone who now can say, I go to the opera, I was able to understand and see some of those differences. But also too, you have some major things in the works, and kudos to you, my friend. Just the growth of you at PBS nationally
so
now
thankful.
Is beautiful. Tell us about some of the things you have going on there.
I'm so grateful. PBS, it's just phenomenal. We have a show called Gospel. It's the history of gospel music, how gospel originated. And we have people like the Clark sisters in there. There's Maverick City, Yolanda Adams, Kirk Frank, all of the people that we love today, but even just going way back with the history of how it started. And Dr. Gates, love him. He does the show Finding Your Roots. He is the host of the show. I got to step in and talk about the show and help people connect with why it's important to support PBS on a large level. And so I'm so excited. It's been airing all over the country. I've been getting text messages of, wait, I was watching PBS and you. So it's great. And now I'm going to be going back to New York to film another portion. I believe it's like live music, John Legend. You think of all the different people coming together to sing, Erica Campbell. And so I'm excited to be able to talk about it. But again, if you missed it on live, you can watch it on PBS Passport, where you can go back and watch all the different shows. But it's such a dream come true to be able to talk about our music and how it started. And, I really believe music begins with us, rhythm, all the things that we love. But to have that history partnered with it is just really beautiful. And I think PBS did a phenomenal job. And to be a part of that is such an honor. So,
Congratulations, my
Thank
friend.
you.
And you're right. Honestly, the history of music, it tells its own story.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful to understand how it's resonated in so many different genres
Yes.
now. It has proliferated, but
Right.
the ideas of the syncopation of beat, and when I think about some of the earliest understandings
Yeah.
of sound and how
Mm-hmm.
to manipulate sound through voice
Yeah.
and instrument and
Yeah.
blending them together. There's
Right.
such a huge part
Right.
of so many cultures because
Mhm.
there are some differences and different kind of
Right.
nodes and nuances that
Mhm.
exist in different cultures. So I love that PBS is exploring this and
Yes.
using gospel,
Right.
really honing in on gospel
Mhm.
music because, we understand it as that was the sound
Yes.
that was liberating for so
Right.
many
Right.
ancestors.
And preaching.
Yeah,
And preaching,
so
like, and
true.
which is to me is like preaching is it is a form of storytelling, and that's how we got through. That's how when we didn't know what to do, we sang. We sang a hymn, and it lifted our souls because we still had to go back and deal with the reality of will this ever end? And so gospel music emerges, and I think that's the difference between certain genres. When I think of gospel, if you really listen to the lyrics, you feel the process of how they're trying to get out.
Yeah.
We're trying to look up. We're trying to see that there's something bigger. And so I love gospel music. Some of the songs, I grew up on Thomas Whitfield, Yolanda Adams, and if you listen to their lyrics, they're telling a story of how they've gotten through, whether it been sickness, sadness, depression, whatever it is, it was gospel music that helped us see. So they did a phenomenal, and Twinkie Clark is on there, and she's playing organ now.
Hey,
She's on there talking, so
see,
it's so cool.
this is what I
Yeah.
love because we also understand the icons
Yeah.
in gospel. So I'm telling you, my grandmother was part of a traveling choir, and when we
Mm.
were younger, she had us in total experience gospel choir with the
Hello.
Petronell, right?
Come on
Yeah,
now, Black
right,
Nativity. I was
right,
in it.
exactly, right. So I got to travel with total experience as a young person and realize like just the power
Mm.
then as a
Yep.
young person of like what we're actually singing about.
Right.
But
Right.
it really resonates even with me to this day where I realize that the positive messaging
Mm.
is so necessary in
Yes.
music,
Yes.
really to refute so much of the negative that we're
Right.
experiencing now in a lot of pop music. So
Right.
I really appreciate this look and deep dive
Mhm.
into gospel. You also have
Yes.
your podcast,
I'm so
season
grateful.
7.
Season 7.
This is exciting. You
Ah.
got to give us the deets on this.
Yes, I'm really excited because the podcast will now go visual. So it's been just nothing but audio. You listen to it. But now I'm actually going to be filming it, and I'm going to partner it with now launching my own YouTube channel as well, where I will showcase just like a day in the life. I'll give you motivation. You'll get the podcast. I'll even cook with you a little bit. And then even some of the things that I'm trying to work through this past season has been, tough. It's been very hard. But there's something to be said about, the feeling of just keep going. Keep going. Never give up. No matter what you face, look for the light. Look for the light as you're going. The biggest thing is that don't take residency in sadness. Feel it. Depression is real. Oppression is real. When things hit you, sometimes they're traumatic, but you might have to pause for a moment. But don't stay there. Get up and keep walking. And that's the biggest thing. Whatever that is, walk to therapy, walk to a conversation with somebody. So that's what this is going to be about. Is I'm going to dive deeper, but you'll be able to watch me, go through this. And at the same time, I'm going to try to do as well one interview where I sit down with somebody and they give their perspective of how they've gotten through some of their darkest seasons. And so I really hope that people walk away with the sense of they're not alone. That's the biggest thing, is that you are not alone, and we have more in common than we don't. And so this season will be a little bit more intimate, and that's why I want you to see my face. I actually want you to look me in the eyes and watch how I navigate through certain subjects that maybe I just for years decided I don't want to talk about that. This season, season 7, which, interesting enough, that's my mom's favorite number, the number 7. She had 7 of us. And she said 7 is completion. So I feel like there's some things in this season that needs to be completed. And so I'm excited for season 7. It's going to be good. The Drive Project podcast. And I'm thankful for Converge that picked it up and said, let's run with it. So here we are. We're going for another one.
Oh, this is beautiful, honestly, Jay,
Thank you.
because, people need some level of inspiration. I
Right.
always say that, but it's like, that does mean tackling the
Yeah.
difficult topics
Yes.
of life.
Yeah.
As we were just talking about with the young folks
Mhm.
navigating life,
Right.
we are too, right? And
Yes.
things hit
Yes.
us as adults that maybe we're not ready for. We couldn't prepare ourselves for it. No
Mhm.
matter if we knew about it or whatever, there's still levels of things that hit us in our lives
Right.
that really can change the trajectory of how
Yes.
we're experiencing this
Right.
thing called life.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that you're taking such a personal
Mhm.
perspective and
Yeah.
approach to season 7, the
Yeah.
Tribe podcast, because honestly, the ways that we are utilizing the technology to create our own media,
Right.
to share our stories, what I really love about it is the opportunity
Yeah.
to connect on that intimate level,
Yes.
right? And to not be in this one box that we have to fit in because we
Mhm.
have to do it a certain way.
Right. Right.
That's
Right.
the beauty of it. So I'm
Yeah.
so glad to hear that you're exploring that, because
Yes.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of folks who are listening who need to hear those
Right.
messages. And as you're navigating,
Mhm.
they'll be navigating, right?
Yeah.
And so that navigation together is key.
I think it's interesting too, because sometimes you wonder, well, is this really going to help anybody? And then you hear somebody say, I was listening to the episode and I got help. And so I say all the time, I do it for the one. You do not win the world by the masses. You win it one by one. Whatever you've been blessed with, work with that first, and then it will expand. And so that's how I choose to continue to look for the wins, is I look for the one that went through something similar, and I just speak to it. And I hope that then they turn around and do the same thing. And all of a sudden you'll look back. What did Maya Angelou tell Oprah? She says, you won't know your legacy until you're gone. It's ongoing. And so I'm just going to keep going until one day I take my last breath, and then people will say, this was the legacy. All of the conversations that were had that brought change, brought hope, brought light. And so that's what I want to be. And that's what I hope this new season is. It's a light in a dark space. So that's what I'm grateful for.
Well, I love hearing you say that. It's a great quote too, because earlier when you were talking about, resilience and just like getting through the next day,
Right.
you don't actually understand it as resilience until many days have gone past.
That's right. Yeah.
And so understanding it as the one thing in front of me,
Mhm.
I'm going to tackle that thing in front of me today.
Yes. Yes.
And the next day I'll do the same.
Right.
And I'll look back at some point.
Right.
And I'll realize,
Look
all
how
of that
yes.
was me being resilient.
Right.
Right. It doesn't happen in one day. And I think about that too when, we're talking about even the gospel nodes and how
Right.
it got folks through. They weren't saying, I'm going to be resilient
No.
today, right?
I just want to make it
Yeah,
another
but when
day.
we look back, it's like
Right.
that's what we are left with. Jay,
Yeah.
always a pleasure to have
Oh,
you here, my friend. Of course,
thank
if
you.
folks are wanting to tap in
Yes.
to PBS
Yeah.
or to the Drive podcast, look right there. Let them know how
Yes.
they connect.
You can connect with me again also on my Instagram, which is just J Martin Jr., Facebook, all the social media handles, and look for me on PBS from time to time. I'm really excited. Check out Gospel, and if you have missed it live, get Passport with PBS. You can go back and watch everything. It's so good.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jay, thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Thank
Appreciate
you.
you
It's
always
always great
being
coming
here,
on
brother.
here. Oh,
Yes.
it's good.
Jay and I have such a fun time, y'all. I'm going to wrap all this fun time seriousness up all in one right after this short break. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
A new COVID vaccine is here. It's designed to help prevent the COVID variants that we're seeing spreading now. Even if you got COVID before or got COVID booster shots and the vaccine, it's important to get this new vaccine. It's safe to get the COVID shot and the flu shot at the same time. Get both to prevent serious illness this fall and winter.
Africatown Plaza is our latest affordable housing development project. It's 126 units of affordable housing over community commercial space.
It's the first time in my career, and I've been doing this for 10 years, that I was able to design for people who look like me.
Africatown Plaza is a beacon of hope.
Africatown Plaza is a love letter to the community.
no time, watch. I don't know how I got you in my pocket spot. Yeah, that's babe, miss you every day. You seem like the barging down. Got my heart no barging in. From the bed to the floor to the couch. Might wake the neighbors up. Break you in and break you out. In the end, we gon' make a child. Then we gon' hit the shower. Part 2, we don't need no pause. Miss you, we gon' get tipsy. Don't need a power shot.
Copy my steel. Face the fact that copy my steel.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. Oh, when I tell you, it's always such a breath of fresh air when Jay Martin Jr. joins me here in the Black Media Matter studios for The Day with Trae. You know, this is exciting for me because, Jay is someone who is working in this industry, creating media, doing the work that matters, and gravitating toward projects that resonate with him. And it's such an inspiration to remember that as you are building, as you are growing, you too have the opportunity to grab the things that resonate with you. I always say, man, if it don't move with the waters of my body, if it don't resonate within the waters of my body, I can't do it. And I love that we have folks like Jay who are now on PBS nationally doing great work, but it's also because he's really driven to do this work. You know, knowing him on a personal level gives me that perspective to say, no, this is not someone who's just like, oh, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to take this opportunity. He's choosing projects that work for him. And then doing his own podcast is a way to be intimate with you all, as he just talked about for season 7. So I am saying, if you are with somebody out there who has an idea, maybe you have a podcast that's been brewing in you, maybe you are wanting to start your own YouTube channel or do something that may be inspirational to others, don't let any fear or any intimidation that you may think you receive stop you. Ultimately, you are your best, advocate by getting out there and doing it. And you never know who may be watching that needs to hear that message. You know, sometimes we feel more comfortable sharing things in a private forum. But with the explosion of technology now, it takes almost nothing for you to share some things publicly and inspire and change other lives. I encourage y'all to do just that, as Jay Martin Jr. has. Of course, y'all know I'm excited to be with you once again. Until tomorrow at 11 a.m., y'all. Peace.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.